So hey, what's up guys, this is AK, and you are watching my YouTube channel AKM. So guys, welcome back to a brand new tips and tricks video of PUBG Mobile. Close range fights are easily one of the most important skills in PUBG Mobile, because they happen so fast, and they decide the outcome of so many matches. The problem is that most players focus only on improving their aim, or finding the perfect sensitivity, while completely ignoring the small decisions they make before and during the fight. That is exactly why they lose fights that they should have won. Even with good recoil control, fast reflexes, and smooth movement, one bad habit can put you at a huge disadvantage before you even fire your first bullet. The good news is that winning more close-range fights does not always require better aim. Sometimes it is simply about making smarter decisions at the right moment. Once you fix a few common habits, you will notice that fights become much easier, you survive longer, and your confidence grows in every match. So let us start with the first tip, because this one alone can completely change the way you take close-range fights. The first tip is to stop rushing into every fight at full speed. This is probably one of the biggest mistakes players make. The moment they hear footsteps, they instantly sprint towards the enemy without thinking about what they are running into. They believe attacking first automatically gives them the advantage. The reality is very different. When you rush without gathering information, you give the enemy control over the fight. They already know where they are holding, they are ready to pre-aim the doorway or the corner, and you become the player reacting instead of controlling the situation. The correct approach is to slow down for just a moment before committing. Listen carefully to the footsteps, pay attention to where they stop, and think about the angle the enemy is most likely holding. Even one extra second of patience can completely change the fight. Imagine you are pushing a house in Pochinki. You hear footsteps on the second floor. Instead of running straight up the stairs, you pause outside for a moment. The footsteps move towards one side of the room. Now you know where the enemy is likely waiting. As you enter, you keep your crosshair ready for that angle instead of looking around randomly. Suddenly, the fight becomes much easier because you expected the enemy instead of reacting after seeing them. This simple habit gives you more control, reduces panic, and helps you win fights much more consistently. Now let us move to the second tip, because this mistake causes players to lose even after getting the first shot. The second tip is to avoid overcommitting after dealing damage. Many players hit the enemy a few times, then immediately chase them without stopping. They assume the enemy is weak, so they continue pushing aggressively without thinking about what happens next. The problem is that experienced players expect this reaction. They quickly move behind cover, reload, heal if possible, and wait for you to run straight into their crosshair. Instead of finishing the fight safely, you walk into the exact position they wanted. A much smarter approach is to stay calm after dealing damage. If the enemy is forced behind cover, you already have the advantage. Hold your angle, watch for their next move, and let them make the mistake first. You do not always need to finish the fight immediately. Picture a fight around containers and living. You land several shots on an enemy, and they hide behind a crate. Instead of chasing around the corner, you keep your position and watch the only exit they can use. As soon as they peek again, they have very little space to move, while your crosshair is already waiting. This habit makes your gameplay far more consistent because you stop turning winning situations into unnecessary risks. Patience often wins close-range fights much more than aggression. Now let us talk about the final tip, and in my opinion, this is the habit that separates average players from experienced players. The third tip is to always fight with an escape option in mind. A lot of players only think about eliminating the enemy. They never think about what they will do if the fight goes wrong. Once they start shooting, they stay completely exposed until one player gets knocked. This becomes a huge problem because close-range fights are unpredictable. You might miss a few bullets, another enemy might appear, or your magazine might run out at the worst possible moment. Without an escape route, you have no way to recover. Instead, always position yourself so you can quickly move behind cover if needed. Before peeking, already know where you will step back if things do not go as planned. This gives you confidence because you are not gambling everything on a single spray. Imagine you are fighting near a broken wall in Erangel. Rather than standing in the open, you peek from one side of the wall. You fire a short burst, then immediately return behind cover. If the enemy shoots back harder than expected, you are already safe. You can reload, reset the fight, and choose a better moment to attack again. Players who always leave themselves an escape option survive longer, make fewer desperate decisions, and stay alive for the important fights later in the match. So let us quickly go over everything we learned today. First, do not rush blindly into close-range fights. Take a moment to gather information, understand the enemy position, and enter the fight with a plan. Second, avoid overcommitting after dealing damage. Stay patient, control the angle, and force the enemy to make the risky move instead of chasing them. Third, always fight with an escape option. Smart positioning gives you more chances to recover, reset the fight, and stay alive even when things do not go perfectly. These 3 habits may look simple, but together they completely change how you approach close-range battles. Instead of depending only on aim, you start making smarter decisions. That is exactly what makes good players more consistent. Over time, you will notice that you survive more fights, win more difficult situations, and become a much more reliable player in every match. So guys, that was all for today's video. If you found this video helpful, make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more PUBG Mobile tips, aiming guides, movement tutorials, and practical gameplay advice that will help you improve faster. Hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.